All right, guys, let's talk about battery life on the OnePlus Open. By and large, I think it has been pretty good. I'd say maybe a little bit better than my Pixel Fold, but of course, it charges so ridiculously fast. It's not something I've personally had a lot of trouble with, but I do see comments from time to time, just like with any phone. Some people are having a worse time than others. So in this video, I'm going to attempt to help people out in regard to their battery life, give some tips and tricks to get the most out of the battery on your OnePlus Open. So let's take a look at my OnePlus Open right now, and let's jump into some quick and simple things you can do to sort of straighten things out. So the most obvious place to start, the first thing you ought to do, pull down your notification shade and let's jump into our settings. We're then going to scroll down to battery, and there are a few things we can do there. So let's go into battery usage by app. You may not realize this, but not only do you see the battery usage by app, you can actually look at particular portions of time. So if you look at your last 24 hours, and maybe there's a spot where you're like, man, what was going on there? That line went nearly vertical. You can touch that section and it will tell you what you are doing at that point in time. And that might help you understand what was going on there. You can also drag and see just overall for a larger portion of time what was going on. And let's say you see an app in there that you're like, okay, that was not even an app I was even using. That was something that should have been running in the background. You can click on that and it will give you some more statistics, but you can also go in and tell it, hey, I don't want you to have the ability to have background activity. You can turn this thing off and say, no more background activity, no more auto launch. You can also force stop that app, which is just going to close that application altogether. I would also suggest after you do something like that, perhaps jump into your apps, go into app management and find the application in question. And if it's okay to do this, it's not going to bother you. Go down to storage usage, clear data, clear cache, and let that app kind of start itself over. That might help that not happen again in the future. But if we scroll down back on this battery screen, there are some more settings here that might be useful. Maybe when you first got this thing, you turned on high performance mode and you didn't realize, you don't remember doing it. Turn that thing back off because you almost certainly do not need it. If you have an app that you think is giving you trouble, you can also go into optimize battery use and you can pick an application and you can say auto optimize, which is going to mean it's not going to let it do stuff when it ought not be doing things. A good thing about these OnePlus devices is that they will try to detect an app that's misbehaving and suggest, hey, maybe you should optimize this thing, but it may miss some, and that's a place you can go. If we go back into the battery usage by app screen, optimize battery usage is another section here, and they're going to give you some suggestions, right? You can drop down to a 60 hertz refresh rate on your screen. It's not going to look as smooth, but it will save some battery. You can turn off location services. Now, this may affect certain applications, but if you're not using apps that need location services like that, it's going to save you potentially a decent amount of battery. You just tick these, and at the end of this, you hit save power, and it's going to do these things. I have my auto screen off time set to like 30 minutes or something like that. You can change it to whatever. Personally, that's not killing my battery because I know what I'm doing. I know why my screen stays on, but you can change that. And then, of course, ticking this box and hitting save power will close applications that are currently running in the background. You can also use this thing, you can tick this box and turn off your 5G network. For most people, you don't really need 5G. All it's doing for most people is potentially draining extra battery. What are you doing on your phone that you really need that extra speed? Probably nothing. LTE is more than fast enough to stream YouTube, to stream music, to play TikTok videos, whatever it might be. What tends to happen is your phone tries to hang on to that 5G connection, and when that connection is a little bit subpar, it drains more of your battery. Now, modern phones do tend to be pretty smart about this, and they'll say, hey, this is a weak 5G signal, so we're going to switch back to the LTE. But you can just disable it altogether, and you're probably not going to notice any degradation at all in your experience. We can take this one step further, though, in terms of determining troublesome apps. Let's go to About Phone, come down here to Version, and then click on your build number a bunch of times until it pops up and says you are a developer. At that point, we're going to go into Additional Settings, and then we're going to go into Developer Options, and we're going to look for something a lot of people don't know is there, running services. This is going to show you what apps, what things are running right now on your device. And you can use this to find things that are running amok. So you may notice here I have Overdrop running. Well, that is my weather app. Why is my weather app running all the time? And a good thing to do when you're doing this, by the way, is bring up your recents and hit the close all button so that no apps are intentionally running. So Overdrop is just running right now. Why is that? Well, that's because I have a widget here and it is using information all the time. It needs Overdrop open so that it can update itself so that it knows where I am, etc., etc. The OnePlus Open just does not like screencasting sometimes. Look at it. It's put a weird squished taskbar down there for some reason. It's strange. All right, let's jump back into the screen. Yeah, my taskbar down there is just in rough shape. Okay, whatever. We're just going to ignore that and move on. There are some things that you're going to see, though, that you should not mess with, right? So like Metis, this is something that OnePlus uses on their device, and it does things behind the scenes. You can't really get rid of it, so leave that alone. What I would suggest to do is if you see something that's weird, Google it, find out what it is. If you see an app that you know what it is, and you're like, why are you running? Why are you running all the time? Like, for instance, Zepp. Where did it just go? Zepp, there we go. So that is the app for Amazfit watches. Well, as of late, I've been just using the switch phone option on my Pixel Watch and just moving it to another phone. I've not been using my Amazfit watch. So I could look at that and I could say, hey, do I really need that Amazfit program still on this thing right now? No, I probably don't. So let's just uninstall it for now. If I ever go back to that watch, I can reinstall it, sign in, and my watch is right back. No harm, no foul. But in the meantime, that is going to help save me some battery life. You can also see a simplified version of that running services thing right here. Click on the three dots and click on active apps. It's going to show you at least some things and you can stop them from there, but the way I showed you is a bit more in depth. And while we're talking about uninstalling apps, that's maybe the simplest one. Just go through your apps and anything that you see that you're not using, like I just had my third straight terrible experience at Bojangles, we're going to uninstall that app because I'm probably not going back there ever again at this point anyway. So just uninstall any app that you're just not using. And some apps may not be uninstallable, but they are definitely, or they should be at least, disableable, and you can definitely do that to potentially cut down on just the opportunity the apps are going to have to be a bad actor. Now, there are some Facebook meta things sort of running on this device that aren't immediately easy to remove. I'm going to drop a link in the description to how you can remove those using ADB. Takes a little bit more work, but you can absolutely get rid of those things. Another really obvious one that people might not always know about is if you go into your settings and you come down here to display, using dark mode is actually better for your device because these things have OLED screens, which means each little pixel is its own light source. And if the pixel is displaying black, what that means is it's just turned off, and that does save power. So use dark mode, use darker colored wallpapers. That is definitely going to give you a little bit of a boost in your battery life. And if you can stand to, turn that auto brightness down whenever you possibly can, because that's where a lot of your power use comes from. If we jump into wallpapers and style, go to always on display and turn that thing off. It doesn't use a ton of power because, like I said earlier, most of the screen is turned off, but it does use some of the screen. And so if you turn it off, that's going to save some battery. If we jump into our quick settings, there may be a couple of other things that you aren't thinking about. Do you use Bluetooth all the time? If you're not using Bluetooth, you can click up here and you can turn that off. Do you use tap to pay? If you don't, you may have a tile here to turn that off. I think I actually got rid of my tile, so we're just going to jump back into our settings, connection and sharing. NFC is there, and you can turn that off. Doesn't take up a lot of power, but it does take up some. Another thing you may not be using is the hot word detection in Google Assistant. Let's jump into the Google app. Click on your little icon up here in the top right. Scroll down to settings. Scroll down to Google Assistant. And then we should have an option here for hey, and voice match. If you click on that, you can turn that off. So now if you say hey, it's not going to react to it because it's not listening, and that will, of course, anything like that that's running all the time is going to be taking up at least some battery. So there's quite a few things you can try. The biggest reasons that your battery is going to be bad, though, are either from misbehaving apps, it's because your screen brightness is too high, or I think for a lot of people, it comes down to your network connection. If you're home like me and you're on Wi-Fi most of the time, your battery is going to be a lot better than if you are out and about. You're driving through the backwoods, you're in areas with poor signal. That is absolutely going to hurt your battery a lot more. And I would suggest in those instances, if you can stand to do it and you're in really, really bad service areas, you're not around a charger, go into airplane mode or something like that. That's going to save your battery a ton. That's actually a good test, right? If you're, maybe you're draining through the night, one night, maybe two night, put it in airplane mode and then leave it off the charger. Charge it up, airplane mode, leave it sitting there all night and see what your battery drain is then. That may show you that your network is having a pretty negative effect on your device. One other thing that I would recommend, it came in the box with a Super VOOC charger, which is fantastic. But you can also get a Super VOOC charger for your car. In fact, I bought one just the other day. And as you can see, I've been using it since November. It is cheap. It's $14 and it will charge your OnePlus Open at maximum speed. So if you're in a commute, maybe your battery life doesn't matter as much when you can plug it in and your 15-minute drive gets you whatever, 45% of your battery recharged. So guys, I'll drop a link in the description, an affiliate link for that charger. If you click on that link and make a purchase, I will earn commission off of that. There are only 4 left in stock right now, so let's sell those out pretty quickly. At least maybe 4 of you will get your hands on one before they're gone. Guys, thanks for watching. Maybe I'll find an alternative and I'll drop a link down there too. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content just like this. If you have any other tips to share, drop them in those comments down below, guys. I'll see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.